Hello and welcome. You're watching us here on NewsX. And since we were children, we were often told the stories of the Arabian Nights, Ali Baba and his Charles Chor. Well, the iconographic name that was incidentally chosen by an equally iconographic character in Chinese entrepreneurship, Jack Ma and his Alibaba Holdings. Well, a precedent setting development has happened in India, which the global agency Reuters has now telecast globally. An Indian court has issued a summons to the owner and operator and founder of Alibaba, Jack Ma, after a complaint by an Indian employee that his company was using fake news and censorship to doctor the kinds of materials that they were being circulating here in India. Now, Alibaba is in the process of also facing the blowback that has come from the 59 apps that have been banned by India. A few of them belong to that company. And we have to also examine what is the future of the investments that have come in, both directly and via proxy, by the Alibaba Group into this country, into some major household name disruptors that are currently operating. How do we do this is a conversation worth having, because it's not only Huawei, it's Alibaba, it's Tencent. These are global Chinese conglomerates that have been created, that have been actively looking to pounce on Indian assets. How much can we let them? Let's have that conversation. Ambassador Deepak Vora joining us on the broadcast. I also have Sumit Peer with us, as well as Pawan Duggal. Ambassador Vora, now it's a court summons. I don't think Jack Ma will be showing up to appear in Indian court anytime soon. But it's more about the logic that if you're operating here in India, you should be bound by Indian jurisprudence.
Thank you for this opportunity to learn from you and from the wonderful minds that are on your show. You referred to the term Alibaba. We used to use it frequently in Malaysia, where the Chinese would tie up with a local Malay fellow to set up a company. So those became Alibaba companies. Ali was the Malay partner, being a Muslim, and Baba was the Chinese fellow who controlled the strings. So this is a very complex issue because there is a law of the conflict of laws, as this outstanding legal expert, Mr. Duggal, will tell you in a little while. There is also the concept of private international law. But the reality, the bottom line is that a company has violated the laws of India. And therefore, should the CEO of that company be liable or not? I take you back, sir, to the time in 1984, I believe, when there was the Bhopal gas leak. And at that time, the chairman, the CEO of the company, I think his name was Anderson, if my memory serves me right, he came to India. He was arrested because there was this thing of vicarious liability. The fellow sitting in the United States, he should have known what his company was up to here. He was arrested, then he was released, he went back, they paid some money, etc., etc. But in this case, the charges that have been applied are serious. That you're fooling around with the security of the country, you're trying to undermine India's internal stability. Now, my understanding, and I'm liable to correction by this outstanding legal brain of Shri Pawan Duggal, that we could actually ask for an Interpol red corner alert against this man because we'd say he's been fooling around with us. We had done it many times with that character who was given shelter in Pakistan, the fellow who's supposed to have died recently. What was
Dawood Ibrahim.
Dawood Ibrahim. Yeah. He did the world a favor by dying. So I think that we really have to now anticipate the action that is going to be taken. But the fact, sir, that an Indian legal institution, doesn't matter what level, has said you can't do this and get away with it, speaks volumes about where India has now arrived.
So let me get Pawan Duggal into this conversation specifically. Pawan Duggal, now what is the liability of the Alibaba Group here once their own employees based in India are being whistleblowers? And it's not the charges of financial impropriety. It's not the it's not a corporate governance charge. It is a charge that you are circulating fake news and doing censorship in your Indian activities. It's a very serious charge.
Clearly, when Alibaba is doing activities in India, it's doing ultimately pertaining to data and information in the electronic form. And when these charges are pertaining to fake news, they are also in the electronic format. So the activities of Alibaba in India will be fully governed by the Indian law, specifically the Indian Information Technology Act 2000. When you look at Section 84 of the IT Act, it's very, very clear. You see, 84, read with Section 1 and Section 75, clearly says you may be located anywhere in the world, but the moment your services are made available on computers, computer systems, or computer networks physically located in India, you get amenable under the Indian Information Technology Act 2000 and also other applicable laws. So there's no running away from the basic principle that Alibaba is amenable to Indian jurisdiction.
Okay, let's look at Mr. Dugal, let's look at the practicalities of it. We know what happened in Canada with the arrest of the daughter of one of the biggest Chinese CEOs of the biggest company, Huawei. The Americans are now seeking the extradition of that particular lady from Canada. In terms of operationalizing an investigation, now I know this is a graded process. You can't do it tomorrow morning at the flick of an instance. But what would be the logical state forward? Because Ambassador Vohra has been talking about that there is no reason why an Interpol Red Corner notice can't be requested from India.
Given the vast repertoire of experience of Ambassador Vohra, he's bang on target. And in fact, it's time that India needs to basically flex its muscles. Already the kind of tension that's happening between India and China, the time has now become very ripe. Till now, we as a jurisdiction were very, very soft. We were wanting to have a soft gloves approach across the world. But now, with this kind of the frontal confrontation that's happening in cyberspace, there's no stopping an Indian court from, first of all, issuing notice, which it has issued. Now, once the notice has been issued, the concerned company will have to represent themselves with lawyers. Now, after lawyers come in, the court has the power to summon the representatives in person. In addition, appropriate Interpol-related activities can be initiated by India at the international level. Ultimately, right now, this fake news is no normal one-to-one exercise. It's an issue which impacts the sovereignty, security, integrity of India. We as a country may not have a dedicated...
We know the conversation that happened in America regarding Russian interference trying to affect an election. That's the fate of nations being decided by cyber wars that are going on. I need to ask this question before I open Sumit P. Pawan Dugal. Now, let's say there's an American company or a European company or an Australian company. Now, we can have a different set of laws, but they are accountable to a legal system within their own countries as well. In the case of a Chinese company, I mean, what is the legal system for these for their own companies that are not only don't have to worry about a company having vested interests, but the government of that particular state ordering the company to enact on vested interests?
So clearly, Chinese companies are working in their own distinctive, unique ecosystem. China, effective from 2015 till now, has come up with 3 distinctive national laws on national security and cyber security. And as part of those national laws, specifically the Chinese National Cybersecurity Law, which came into force from 1st of June 2017, the government has the power to ask any of these companies to give any information to the government, and non-giving of information becomes an offense. On top of it, given the recent report by the Trump administration that a number of these Chinese companies are controlled and managed by the Chinese military, the fact is they are working in that insulated ecosystem. That effectively being so, you cannot say that because you are located and you are governed by the Chinese law, you are not going to be governed by Indian law. It's, of course, there's a distinct conflict of laws that's going to happen.
But with the exact risks that you just pointed out, that these, look, there are 2 kinds of risks for our viewers watching the broadcast. One is that the company is misappropriating your information and data, right? I mean, you had Facebook with Cambridge Analytica, either through malpractice, a mission or commission. The company is messing up your data. And there's a different scale when the country that company comes from is using that company to deliberately obfuscate its position and get your data. Now, there's a very serious aspect to this, Sumit P., that we need to address, because Jack Ma and Alibaba have massive holdings in India and some household names. I mean, you take Paytm, take Zomato. Now, these are all digital apps that are operating physical exercises. You're talking about financial transactions. I mean, potentially the risk of what I've ordered for dinner being on some server in Beijing and my likes and dislikes in the use of onions being known to the Chinese. There is a very serious risk which we have to now very readily examine.
I think Rishabh, thanks for having me on the show. There are a couple of things here. The first thing is that it's a nightmare which has come true. Now, this complaint was filed by Mr. Parmar in 2017. I congratulate him for them because he said, he observed that when it comes to Chinese news, that is censored. And when it comes to Indian news, you are implanting, sir, the word is you're implanting fake news. Let's say 2,000 rupee note will be blocked, banned from tomorrow morning. Can have huge ramifications on our stock exchange, our construction, a lot of economic activity within the India. I don't think anybody except the Prime Minister or even your channel will know that. Will your channel be able to predict Rishabh or any media house in tomorrow 2000 note is banned? So obviously it's under a Chinese design, it's under a malicious intentions. Now point number two, when Jack Ma entered through these businesses in India, did he declare he's a member of Chinese Communist Party? No. So if he's a member of Chinese Communist Party, which he did not declare at the time of entry of India, it's a fraud. It's a scheme wherein you are trying to hide and conceal facts. Now, the moment you are a member of Chinese Communist Party of India and Jack Ma having a record gone, I can give all my shares to Chinese Communist Party. A direct affiliation between Alibaba, Chinese Communist Party, and Jack Ma is very visible. Right. Now, these five fake news. Look at, sir, 800 million downloads of UC browser, 100 million downloads of UC news. So when you have hundreds of millions of downloads happening, you have the tool to propagate the fake news. So it is a national security threat which has been revealed. I'm very thankful to the government that they have acted finally and got rid of them. There are three important things which come out from this issue. Point number one, this is a national security issue. We did the right thing where there's a lot more to be done. Point number two, it's not only Alibaba, Rishabh. There are people like Twitter also. When Amul put a post against this Chinese aggression, they banned Twitter. There are thousands of handles which are blocked.
But Sumit, how the Chinese work is they don't allow Twitter and Facebook and Google in their mainland. But they have armies operating on Twitter and Facebook, and all you need to do is get a few thousand people to report an account, and the algorithm of Twitter will put it into suspension until human review is done. Yeah, finish your thoughts.
Last point, quick one. Now what you incidentally got is a brilliant point, sir. Now what happens to those companies which have substantial Chinese investment? These all companies need to be investigated because here is a clear-cut case that this was done under design.
So, Ambassador, I'm referring to the Gateway House report that came out in February this year, which did a tabulation, not in toto, but of the major Chinese investments, including Alibaba Group. So they have hold major stakes in companies like Paytm, financial transaction leader in the country, digital financial transaction. Zomato, I'm pretty sure I have the Zomato app on my computer, and on my phone, a lot of people would have it. Now, not to say that these companies are leaking data to the Chinese state, but the potential of investment from here being loaded with other factors exists.
Mr. Gulati, if it's a question of Zomato, for example, which you just referred to, I have no problem if the Chinese find out what my dietary preferences are, that I prefer Japanese to Chinese food or Indian to any other kind of food. That doesn't bother me. But the point that Mr. Peer and Mr. Dugal have made so eloquently, that when it is an investment in a company that can directly impact on your national security, that becomes an issue for concern. I believe the Chinese have overplayed their card all across the world. They are under investigation in Europe, as you know, in Canada, they're under investigation in the United States, and now in India. Canada, a few years ago, would probably not have arrested the daughter of the chairman of Huawei, but they've done it now because they are angry, they are mad at what the Chinese have been up to over there. So I believe there is a global coalition that is being formed, telling the Chinese companies enough is enough. You raised the issue, how does the Chinese law operate in China against their companies? Well, it depends on how well you know the naked emperor. His name is Xi Jinping. I mean, that's what decides where you will go. And, he recently arrested somebody and seized all their companies, etc., because they found him, they called him a tiger who was hurting the Chinese economy. Well, happy birthday. If you arrest people for hurting your economy, why can't we do the same over here? Sir, I would like to see the next stage in this. And perhaps I'm being futuristic. We have the present judgment says that Mr. Ma, please appear before me either yourself or through a lawyer with documents. Take it that he's unlikely to appear in person. Well, let's send a request then to the Chinese government. I hope it happens for his extradition. I don't know how the Chinese are going to respond to that, but we will then be elevating it to an entirely different level.
Well, they'll be responding unhappily. Now, Pavan Dugal, to just a reference in context of the earlier tangent I was trying to communicate to our viewers. There is one thing in having a problem with a Facebook and a WhatsApp and an Instagram that, look, you guys as commercial interests are misappropriating your data. The other is the Trump administration ordering a Facebook that, listen, all the sensitive data you have about India, you give to us so that we can use it for our own interests. There were completely different tangents. Now the latter is what the situation in China is.
Surely, if you are a company in China, you have no choices. You have to comply with the law of the land, which is the National Cybersecurity Law. The government, under a variety of circumstances, can ask any information, including pertaining to all your operations outside. And this was the one prime reason why the Indian government suddenly realized that there was an urgent need to ban the 59 apps. Because these 59 apps were actually creating a stream of data that was constantly leaving Indian users and Indian shores onto China, so that the said data could be analyzed using machine learning and artificial intelligence. And the learnings from such analysis could be used potentially against India. Number two, the kind of money that's being generated by these so-called free apps, because they're monetizing the data of Indians against Indians, I think was something that the government was concerned with. And once your money is going to China, your data is going to China, you should be under no illusion that particular kind of stuff is going to be accessible by the Chinese government. And if that happens, so clearly.
Let's look at the strategic approach, Pavan Duggal, and I'll get Sumit back in. Now, by shutting out, now I'm not suggesting we follow the same model, we have to come up with our own model. But by shutting down all the global players, mostly which were American companies, which dominated the digital space, the Chinese have created in the Weibos and the Baidus and the WeChats their own digital players. They've created their own high-tech, massive technology players, Huawei being one of them. They've created these investment houses, Alibaba being one of them, which are then slowly taking over companies either directly or via proxy all over the world. Now, from a larger plan vision, what should our strategic approach be? There's a tactical approach, there's a specific approach on Alibaba, on 59 apps. On a strategic level, what should we be thinking? Mr. Duggal.
Well, at a strategic level, I'm very, very clear. The 59 apps banning is only the start of a journey, not the destination. Number two, we need to now start looking at other apps, because China has now started to flood the Indian app ecosystem with new apps, including, these entire TikTok pros are coming back. So you will have to constantly have a look at that. Number two, you have to also start looking at your leaking ecosystem, because apart from these apps, it's the Chinese phones, the Chinese equipments, the Chinese CCTV cameras, which are installed in governmental or in private sectors, that are also leaking out data outside the territorial boundaries of India. That will also be have to effectively looked at. I also see that there's no harm in freezing some of the Chinese investment in Indian companies, primarily to give a salutary message. And the power of freezing such kind of investments is very much with the Indian government. At the end of the day, the government has to give a message to China. We are concerned about our cyber sovereignty, and we'll do all it takes to protect.
No, I think the best way is, the first step should be transparency. There's no reason why an Android or an Apple can't be requested that you have to make a declaration before you release an app in India on the origin point of the app, that companies that are seeking Chinese investment, whether it's coming through Malaysia, it's coming through Singapore, or coming through the Cayman Islands, Benami investments also happen, that they should be able to declare the point of origin of those investments. And we should be allowed to know. Information should be shared with us. Sumit, quick point, and then I think Ambassador Vohra wants to make a point. Sumit, go ahead.
Rishabh, the point I'm trying to make is that we have all the options open, because it's a question of our national security. That's why the first point I made, when Jack Ma entered India, didn't he conceal the most important information, which was done by intention, that he's a member of Chinese Communist Party, he has direct linkages with Chinese Communist Party?
He's already signing the documents, right? There'll be some proxy on his behalf signing the documents. I don't know how many Chinese admit when they're filing the US visa that they are members of the CCP. I'm sure they don't.
That is a fraud, Rishabh. That is then fraud. Then you're concealing the data under an intention. Then your intentions from day one are ill. You're trying to deceive the people. It's deceit, it's fraud. Dhokha hai ye. 420 hai ye. Because you have to declare who you are in honesty. Then why after some time? Because today you thought you have 100 million downloads, you can declare who you are and nobody will going to touch you.
They've snuck in, right? They've created the ambience here where they are dominating not only their market space, they're dominating our market space. And we haven't realized it's happened. It's sort of just happened. Ambassador Vohra wants to make a point. Ambassador Vohra, go ahead.
Just wanted to say that the issue that you raised, or the issue that Mr. P raised about not giving full information in the visa application, you know what's happened to this Chinese PLA woman in San Francisco who was hiding in the consulate but now has been removed from the consulate. The Americans are quite capable of storming into the consulate and pulling her out. She's been arrested and she's going to face trial because she said, I had no contact with the Chinese military. She was a member of the PLA. They found her uniform, etc., etc. Exactly what Mr. Peer has said. Ultimately, sir, it's a country's reputation and record that you have to go by in accepting investment from that country. And on both counts, China's reputation and China's record is abysmal. There are Indian companies that are operating in the United States, in Europe, and many other places. They observe, they follow local laws. We don't believe in this kind of nonsense that the Chinese indulge in day in and day out. I might just conclude by saying, Mr. Gulati, that you have had a program on Hong Kong and you've criticized what the Chinese have done. Well, for criticizing now the Chinese, you could be arrested.
I'm liable for arrest. If I travel to China, I can, anywhere in the world, if you criticize the Chinese regime, Communist Party, you can be arrested. And if I ever travel to China, I know I have to face the prospect of arrest. I've already had this conversation with my wife. No going to Hong Kong.
In China, you will enjoy chop suey in the jail, so just stay on there.
Well, I'm pretty happy with my Indian tadka right now. But Sumit, before I go back to Pawan Duggal, on the next phase of this, before we run out of time, is the ability not only to recognize the threat but to offer alternatives, which the Chinese have been able to rapidly create and rapidly infiltrate. And we know what their mindset is. Now you have all these Chinese companies saying, no, we are actually a US company. We have a headquarters in San Francisco, nothing to do with China. Oh no, we are an Indian startup phone manufacturer. Just because we are founded in Shenzhen and my name is Realme, doesn't mean I'm a Chinese company. So they're starting this proxy war now. We know how they're going to do it. So how do we now create the genuine Indian alternatives before they start the proxy war?
I think, Rishabh, there are 3 steps. First of all, declare strategic sectors in which no direct and indirect Chinese investment is allowed. We have already done an MOD. Point number 2.
No, but why? Why not just have our own apps?
Correct.
How do the apps? I think if you give the Indian the choice, knowing that this is Chinese and this is not, they'll make the right choice.
Point number 2 is beneficiary ownership. It doesn't matter where you route the money from. Any money coming into India has to declare who's the beneficiary ownership. Even if you route it for 20 routes, you cannot hide it. Point number 3. Make an ecosystem. Sir, we came up with the Arogya Setu app in 3 weeks.
I was about to mention that. No, I was about to mention the opposite. I interviewed the entire team of Arogya Setu when the app was launched. People from Make My Trip, from Google, who were working on that. And we had for 3-4 weeks repeated conversations to discuss privacy issues. Now, Pawan Duggal, in this country, to do a corona tracing app, which you can simply delete when you no longer need it after coronavirus is over, we had a very, very important debate on privacy. But when it comes to Chinese apps, we just say, okay. And they control everything, my microphone, my camera, everything.
I think it's all mindset issue. The fact is, if I'm getting anything for free, I won't even think twice before selling my own soul. That's a mindset we need to change. So when these Chinese apps are giving us wonderful world-class services free of cost, we have to quickly realize that we are the product. And we ought to make intelligent decisions before we start installing such kind of an apps. There's lack of appropriate capacity building amongst the users level. And most of the time, the users are completely oblivious of the legal ramifications of their giving access on their cameras or their gallery or their microphone. I think it's all got to do more with the sensitization, capacity building, education, and that has to start from schools.
Where is the irony have we gotten lost? That when a corona tracing app is released by the government of this country, we are deeply aware. I know how many people probably watching this broadcast who are still suspicious that, oh my God, the government will know. Well, technically under lockdown, you were either at work or at home and nowhere else. But oh my God, the government will know when I'm traveling, so I don't want the app. And that's perfectly fine. You can feel that way. It's a voluntary episode. But when we have such scrutiny over the government of India's corona tracing app, where is the equivalent amount of scrutiny for these Chinese apps or companies?
There's no equivalent scrutiny at all. We tend to disbelieve our government and we tend to believe outsiders, thinking that they are the next big angels that are out to safeguard us. That is a wrong methodology and a mindset. We have to be adopting a very intelligent approach, and it should be standard objective parameters, both for governmental apps as also for outside India apps. At the end of the day, we have to start realizing that we are all part of a big chain of the ecosystem of cybersecurity. And we should not be the weakest link of the chain. And therefore, more capacity building is required.
And to have the equivalent quality in service provision apps available here. Because in the end, Ambassador Vora, this is not just about countering the Chinese. You can't counter the Chinese by keep on poking a stick at them or throwing the stick at them. You have to be able to come up with a better alternative so that it becomes redundant what the Chinese are doing. Now, what do we know? If there is a 200 apps, let's say I need a scanner app on my phone, I need a Facebook type app, I need a WhatsApp type app, or a search engine, or an alternate TikTok, they should be made here.
Mr. Gulati, there can be no argument with what you have said. Please remember that when we had the Y2K bug, it was the Indian brain that fixed it. They're supposed to be the brightest in the world. Now we see what is happening is the cyber clash of the titans, and India is a titan in cybersecurity. In cyber matters, I have no doubt in my mind that with Atmanirbhar Bharat and all that is going on now, and people like Mr. Dougal and Mr. Peer who understand the significance of cybersecurity, we are bound to win. It might take some time because we've let our defenses down. We've trusted others for far too long. Now that trust has disappeared. And when we move, sir, let me assure you, I've seen this in my years of existence and 47 years in diplomacy. When we move, even lightning looks like a snail compared to us.
Okay, so Sumit, I've only got a couple of minutes left in the debate. In terms of alternatives, okay. Now, not to say that every Indian company should be blindly trusted or whatever data that there is no security risk whatsoever, but that should be our problem. Then we have to do under our own laws because this data is here, the servers are here. Let's have the debate on what is privacy, what is not privacy, what the government of India should be allowed to do and not be allowed to do. Let's have that debate in our country, but not let's have the debate, banging our fist or raising our fist or shaking our fist at the Chinese when they have everything behind their Great Wall servers.
I think, Rishabh, data localization and data security is this issue which we're happening. But let me tell you, sir, there are Indian companies of impeccable repute. Take of Wipro, talk of TCS, talk of a lot of them. I don't want to take names. All of them. They're Indian companies, Indian origin, run by Indian people. Why can't we give them a list? These are the 100 apps. We want you make 10, you make 10, you make 10, and tell me within 3 weeks they will kind of come up with any and every app you want, and they will do it even free of cost. We have a very simple answer. Identify 100 apps. Give them, this is what you want to make, divided by 10 prominent companies of Indian directors, Indian origin, paying taxes in India, and within 3 weeks you have all apps up and running on your iOS, Android. It's very simple. Just somebody has to set the ball rolling. And the first step was to ban the Chinese apps. We have done that already. It's not difficult at all. We can do it, Rishabh. It's very easy for us.
So Pavan, what's the X factor missing? Because the business opportunity is there, the commercial opportunity is there, the national imperative seems to be there. We've proved it. I think, in my humble opinion, the Arogya Setu is a very effective app. I can tell you that one of my colleagues tested positive. Even before we got the test result, I got a notification from the Arogya Setu app. And when I got myself tested for coronavirus and came negative, immediately the notification changed and said you are now safe. So something in it was working. There might be concerns regarding it, but clearly it was something we put together in 3 weeks that works.
I think it's the holistic element which is missing. We are all working in silos. It's time to stitch those silos approach into one holistic national approach. And that's the missing element. We have the political will. We've been doing excellent work in silos, but right now they all need to be combined together to make one common holistic approach, which I think has to be the common face for the world. Right now, if I'm an outsider and I look at India, I come up with conflicting signals from various ministries, from different stakeholders. I think India has to speak in one voice. That look, we will do all that it takes to protect our sovereignty, security, integrity. We welcome investment, but at no point of time are we going to mortgage our national interests.
And I think transparency. So we have a consensus on a point that when it comes to being under the purview of Indian law, that equally applies to a Jack Ma as it does to anybody who runs a Chinese company here in India. Transparency from Indian firms and other firms operating here that receive Chinese money, not just from Alibaba, from many others, should be out, including some household names. We need to have the credible Indian alternatives not only available, but publicized. I think Ambassador Vora wants to make a quick closing remark. Go ahead, sir.
Nothing. I just, after this very serious discussion, wanted to conclude on a lighter note. The accusation about loss of privacy for Arogya Setu app was not that the government would find out whether I was at home or traveling. The danger was my wife would find out. And I think that's what people were very concerned.
In this case,
I'm bringing it down to low level.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.